And it becomes a symbolic victory. And symbolic victories are bankrupt, and they are empty. They will give you your chapter 11. It's highly costly. We cannot get rid of them. We do not let go fully. We do not expel them, because we get the shadow effect there. The shadow effect is a Jungian term. It is the rejection, the expelling of an aspect of yourself that perhaps you don't like. A victimized self, for example. I'm not that victimized self any longer. That is may be true by degree. However, it has to be brought into you and embraced for you to maintain healthy outcomes. The expelling of aspects of ourself, expelling aspects of our belief systems that were, even though we're changing them, produces a shadow response. It is repression. Repression produces your skin problems and your tummy problems, ingestion, and that type of process. It interrupts your health, compromises the immune system, gives you bad luck, so to speak. So we avoid doing that. Yeah, we avoid doing that. Basically, when we are dealing with both worry and resentment, we need to embrace them, bring them into ourselves, and review them from a perspective of a healthy parent or a healthy adult, a compassionate, radically accepting being. Radically accepting being, which brings us once again from the mundane world of meeting our needs and fulfilling ourselves to the existential world, to the world that it goes a little further, a spiritual, psycho-spiritual component to all of us, that all of us have, if you will. And here too, I am suggesting that radical acceptance allows you to receive your emotional wounds, accept them, and put them in a place. That takes a radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is very closely related to the relaxation response. In other words, being disturbed about something, relaxing and tolerating, recognizing that it is producing sensations and feelings, taking it in. This is the experience of being alive. It is not personal. It is impersonal. What you're experiencing is impersonal. This helps us in our capacity to radically accept what is going on and allow the value systems to begin drifting back to where they need to be, back towards actualization, back to being free again. Being free even under the tyrant, so to speak. There is no doubt about it. There is some tyranny in our environment. You take a look, you will see. And there is elements of being controlling, and this is social controls, for example. Status, very common factor. Education status, racial, financial, gender, etc., orientation. All these elements are part of our culture. What we're attempting to interrupt, to liberate ourselves, is not the capacity to make distinctions. It is the interruption of becoming condescending. this does not help us. We do need to begin to recognize that everything that we are seeing, whether it's horrible or wrong or right, is nature itself. So this is a very critical perspective that's going to help us to relax and reduce resentment and ruminations, because that has to often be brought into some degree of order. Preoccupation looks like it's the right thing to do. When you're angry and ruminating, for example, you can spend half your day thinking about how right you are. And, well, you very well may be right. However, you're also giving up your life. And that is what we do not want to do. Now, we're cultivating in the liberation from dependency and codependency an indifference. However, it is not a resentful indifference. However, that's not a bad start. Resentful indifference, that's popularly known as the fuck you response, may be the beginning. It is pointing to what has to occur. In other words, we need to dismiss these ruminations, this preoccupation. We have to dismiss it long enough to allow ourselves to follow our bliss, as Joseph Campbell said it so well. We follow ourselves, the actual personality. What we like, what we are responding to, needs to be honored sufficiently. Whether it just be a whisper, we actually need to follow that through. In other words, if you happen to be responding, you're looking at a magazine, you're responding to some visuals, for example, you could be responding to roof lines. It is speaking to you about your, very possibly speaking about your disposition. It's something that you are attracted to. Suddenly you're learning. And this is what is missed often in a person who is suffering chronic codependency. And by the way, it is subtle. We are not aware that we have preoccupation, resentment, and that we are chronically worried. We consider these to be adaptive fantasies. However, these fantasies need to have limited amount of time and duration. Otherwise, if you give them too much duration, they increase intensity and they become a personal reality. As we have believed, folks, so is it unto us. Consciousness, what we are imagining, has a generative and creative capacity. Why? Because of relativity, the subject-object relationship. There's a kind of a mirroring that occurs with the operations that are occurring within our mind, and the externalizing, the unfolding of events in our experience. There is indeed an equivalence occurring, and that's why many of us are stuck. We do not understand that the subject is both internal and external. We are what we are looking at. We might say it also, what is looking is what we're looking at. Some of us may not be that familiar with this idea, but it is indeed what is going on. In other words, you know yourself not only by knowing your feelings, your thoughts, but you know yourself also by circumstances. These things have already externalized, and they are expressing as circumstance. Now, if you are enduring, for example, a deprivation, you can suspect the existence of a deprivation schema within yourself. And we then begin to notice what is occurring in our minds. That noticing is the liberation from psychological suffering itself. And we cultivate that through mindfulness, through non-duality, through stillness, through the reduction of being judgmental, by minding our own business, by being as we are, being, no commentary necessary. Now, this mindfulness is an exposure. So when you stop judging the world, hold still, does not require a narrative. A plant growing does not require a narrative about it. Your narrative about the plant growing discusses the story of a plant growing, but the actuality of the plant is different, and the actuality of your life is different than your narrative. Fine, keep a narrative. However, the cessation of this imaginative preoccupation of fantasizing is important. We need it to be integrated with our imagination. So observation, mindful observation, meditation, non-conceptual awareness then integrates with, it's distinct from, but it integrates with imagination, and we have a beautiful opportunity to start over. We did not get ourselves into this mess. However, it is up to us to get out of the mess. Towards actualization, towards a healthier environment. I know this is a lot to swallow. However, we do it one at a time. And finding peace in your life is a critical way of influencing the well-being of all sentient creatures. There is a commonality in identity. This world is yourself in many ways, or you can say it the other way. We are this world. This world is us. It's in both directions. So we had a conversation today about codependency, and again, I did want to point to the fact that we are dealing also with codependent features at the cultural level, and that means insulation. We must insulate. We must begin to mind our own business. Watch how much we are exposed to in terms of being judgmental. When we can begin to detect toxic influences when we are subordinating either animals or people, nations, etc. We can keep everything. However, we need some psychological distance from it. Wisdom needs to abide with us personally, and that again requires that we let go of authorities by degree. Okay, we keep everything. However, we begin to cultivate silence in our lives, begin to get still, begin to observe what is happening in our consciousness, and then we begin to interrupt